Tom Aspinall has a chance to be the greatest heavyweight of all time. Tom is coming off an extremely impressive first-round knockout victory for the interim title over Sergei Pavlovich. And going into that fight, a lot of people saw paths to victory for Tom, but the paths that most people saw for him would either to be winning by decision or to be winning by submission. I don't think anybody saw Tom being able to knock out Sergei in the first round. And I think based upon that performance and based upon his overall skill set, I really do believe that Aspinall has a real chance to be the greatest heavyweight of all time in the long-term future. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy MMA. I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it. At this point, we all know that Tom Aspinall is an extremely impressive fighter. Although he hasn't been in the UFC that long, he's had an extremely impressive UFC career. Both in terms of some of the guys he's beaten, like Alexander Volkov, Sergei Pavlovich, and Marcin Tybura, but another reason for why his UFC career has been so impressive so far is based upon the many different methods that he was able to find his victories in. He was able to get some wins via TKO, he was able to get some wins via submission, and he overall has shown a really nice diverse skill set in his short UFC career so far. And although it is extremely early, and although I might get a lot of flack for this, I do honestly believe that Tom Aspinall has a real chance to be the greatest heavyweight of all time. So the question at this point is, why do I feel that way? Well, in my opinion, it comes down to a couple different factors, but the first factor has to be his overall skill set and the overall versatility that he has within it. When you look at Tom Aspinall, it's pretty clear that this guy is very good in a lot of different areas. But talking about his stand-up ability, this is certainly an aspect of his game that's very elite. He has a really nice ability to throw out that jab, he has a really nice ability to throw uppercuts, hooks, left or right crosses, has the ability to switch stances, and overall in terms of his punches, I would say the biggest thing to it is definitely his speed alongside with his power. Now, we just saw in his last matchup against Sergei Pavlovich, he was able to knock out a guy who in the past has shown to have a great chin. Because when you look at Sergei's matchup versus Curtis Blaydes, although Sergei was eventually able to find the finish, he was getting tagged quite a bit, but when he was getting tagged by a pretty big power puncher in Curtis Blaydes, he wasn't getting affected really whatsoever. But when Tom Aspinall was able to find that right hand on Sergei, he wobbled him, and then that second right hand ended up putting him out. So that kind of just shows you the speed, precision, and power that Tom Aspinall possesses in his hands. But even besides his punching ability, Tom also has a phenomenal ability to throw kicks. When you talk about kicking at the heavyweight division, it's something that not every fighter utilizes, and it's something that's a little bit nuanced to a lot of guys. But when you look at Tom Aspinall's ability to throw kicks, more specifically kicks to the legs, he does so at an extremely effective level. He does a really nice job at throwing his kicks with power, throwing them fast, and just giving more looks for his opponents to think about. And when you look at his last matchup against Sergei, he specifically did a really nice job at utilizing that. Early on, when Tom was able to land those kicks on Sergei, it really did a couple of things out there. Of course, firstly, it hurt Sergei's legs a little bit, which of course hindered his movement, but also besides that, now Sergei's punches that he's going to be throwing back would be a little bit less powerful because his front leg was hurt a bit. And lastly, it could have potentially made Sergei a little bit more forward and a little bit more aggressive than he might have wanted to be, just due to the fact that his leg might have potentially been hurt early on, and if he just stayed back and waited a little bit longer, his leg was only going to get more and more hurt. So overall, I do think the addition of the leg kick to Aspinall's game is extremely impressive and extremely important at the heavyweight division, where, as I mentioned before, not every heavyweight has the ability to throw kicks. So the fact that he has that ability and does so effectively with power and speed just makes him that much better and makes every other aspect of his stand-up abilities that much better as well. But the great thing about Tom is he's not only extremely effective on the feet, but once the fight goes to the ground, he's also extremely good. As Aspinall has a really nice ability to take the fight to the ground with either a single or double leg takedown, but once the fight does get to the ground, he's also extremely talented and effective, as he either utilizes his jiu-jitsu to find submissions, whether you talk about a Kimura, rear naked choke, armbar, leg lock, whatever it is, Aspinall has the ability to do so, but even more importantly than that, he understands position over submission, and he does a really nice job at staying patient out there, finding that submission for a ground and pound finish, or if the submission is there, he will go to it at times as well and find those submission finishes like he has on his record. And when you look at his overall skill set, I think there is a lot to love about it, and I think the versatility overall is a huge reason for why I think he has a chance to be the greatest heavyweight ever in the future. But the next reason for why I feel that way is due to his overall fighting IQ. Because when you look at different UFC champions and different UFC fighters that are extremely successful, of course a lot of those guys have really nice skill sets and a really great ability to do a lot of different things out there, but most importantly, when you talk about the best of the best like Alexander Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, some other guys, what they do extremely well is they have extremely good fighting IQs. And when you look at Tom Aspinall, I think the same of him. I think he has a really nice understanding of what he needs to do in specific fights. Like for example, when he goes up against guys that aren't necessarily the best strikers, he can be a little bit more aggressive, but when he goes up against the guy in Sergei Pavlovich that he just did, he has to be extremely careful, and I think he did a really nice job at understanding that, and he did a really nice job at really avoiding danger for the most part. As although he did get caught with that one shot, at the same time he did a great job in that Sergei fight at using his footwork and using his overall speed to dart in and dart out and minimize risk the best he could. And I think that overall fight IQ that he did show in that fight, and he's shown throughout his entire UFC career so far, is a huge reason for why I think he has a chance to be the greatest heavyweight of all time. But the last reason for why I think Tom has a real chance to be the greatest heavyweight ever is due to his improvement that he's been showing. Because when you look at where Tom is at this point compared to where he was when he originally got to the UFC, it's pretty clear there's significant improvement there. Not only in terms of his stand-up abilities, but also in terms of his ground game as well. So if Tom was able to improve that significantly in 2 or 3 years, just imagine how much better he can get in 2 or 3 years from now. And of course, all that improvement comes down to the amount he trains, the coaches that he does have, and the lifestyle diet that he is obtaining. So overall at this point, I am extremely high on Tom Aspinall. I think he's going to have a lot of success in the future. Whether that means he fights John Jones next, whether that means he fights Cyril Gane next, or regardless of who he fights, I do think Aspinall is going to have an extremely bright future. And when you look at this heavyweight division, I don't necessarily see a guy that is certainly going to beat Tom Aspinall. I think Aspinall is a difficult matchup for everybody in this division, and I think I would favor him over virtually everybody and maybe everybody at the heavyweight division. Now I will say I do not think the John Jones fight will happen. Dana has said it himself, and I think it's pretty clear at this point they want to do John Jones or Stipe Miocic, then both of those guys are probably going to retire after that, and then the heavyweight division can move on from there. Now what that means for Tom Aspinall is either he's going to have to wait a little bit, or maybe he's going to have to defend his interim title against Cyril Gane or somebody else, but regardless of that fact, as I said before, I do think Aspinall is a nightmare matchup for a lot of different guys at the heavyweight division, and I think he would be favored over virtually everybody. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening, not only in the short-term future, but also in the long-term future for Tom Aspinall. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Tom Aspinall has a chance to be the greatest heavyweight ever, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.